Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
And today we are talking about decision-making and
Yes.
making complicated decisions, making simple decisions, but regardless of the level of the decision, building our skill set of making decisions better and more quickly.
Yeah, and I think decisions it can certainly impact your health if they're big decisions, but often it's the small ones that trip us up.
Yeah.
And I think the speed of your decisions that you make, especially the smaller ones, the faster either going to fail and then learn from that and get better. I mean, that's really what we want to do. Procrastination can kill momentum, can kill deals, can kill just a lot of goals. So it's important that you're really working on not procrastinating on making decisions.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I mean, as a business owner, as a dad, in a husband, my whole life, I feel like I'm constantly faced with different decisions, big and small.
Yeah.
They have to be made, and sometimes, it's the little ones that I'm procrastinating that have the
Right.
biggest impact on my ability to make the big ones, and
Hmm.
they really do. It all ties together. So I think this is one of those skills that if you're listening to this and you've ever been faced with a decision that you've procrastinated
Hmm.
or that maybe you have one right now where you're like, I just can't quite decide what to do because I don't know what's going to happen. This is a great podcast for you.
Yeah, and there's a risk involved, and so people that are not risk averse, they're going to procrastinate a lot,
Yeah.
but nothing's going to be 100% safe. There's always
Yeah.
a risk to everything. Of course, minimizing the risk is important to do,
Mhm.
but you're not going to get rid of risk. And I think when we were talking before, you have three things with the risk. If
Yeah.
you want to go over that, I thought that
Yeah,
was
for
good.
sure, for sure. I mean, I think, when it comes to decisions, there's three things you can do with risk, right? Because when we're talking about decisions, we're always talking about risk. We're talking about what is the downside
Yeah.
of, the decisions I make. That's why we procrastinate because we're worried about that.
Hmm.
And the three things you can do with risk, number one, you can manage risk, right? Number
Yep.
two, you mitigate risk, right? So we can try to manage and have less of it. The
Hmm.
one thing you can't do is you cannot eliminate it.
Right.
There's no way to eliminate risk. And the people who, try to eliminate risk make very little progress in their decisions and in their life.
Right.
There's just no way to get rid of it. There's always going to be risk. So
Yeah.
people who are risk averse, right, which is not a bad thing. Like I think being risk averse is can work in your favor as opposed to
Yeah.
somebody who's just YOLO, let's do it. Let's who
Yeah.
cares
Yeah.
what happens, right? Burn the
Yeah.
bridges. I think, as long as you get comfortable with that fact that we can try to contain the risk and manage it,
Hmm.
but still move forward, it'll help you a lot in your decision making process.
Yeah, and it's about I mean, matching your personality with the risk, I think, is important, but at the same time, you need to grow and expand. So having people around you that maybe are more into risk can be helpful. They can push you and pull
Yeah.
you in a different direction because you can be too conservative and you're not growing. And if you're not growing, especially as a business, you're going to start to die. You're going to start to dwindle. So there has to be some risk. I like calculated risk myself. I mean, that's what I like to take. But also risk and then failing, that's how you learn, that's how you grow, that's how you get better. So it's okay to make a decision and it's a wrong decision, then change it, um, because sometimes waiting too long you miss opportunities,
Yeah.
and that's
Well,
not good.
I like thinking about it from like an investment strategy, right? I mean, and this is not investment advice, but if you're going to take, risks on the stock market or on investing, a lot of times it's best to do that with smaller amounts of money.
Yeah, right.
Because they're risky, so we don't want to lose everything. Where, if we're looking for long-term investment, we can do more money into more stable things, right? That has
Right.
less risk. So, I
Hmm.
think decision making, as much as it's fun to put it all on black and hope for the
Yeah.
best, it's
Yeah.
not always the best strategy long term.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so
Yeah.
so let's get into our three steps. I think these three steps are really important as people are looking at these
Hmm.
decisions they need to make. Number one, I love it because we're going to hit you right in the face
Yeah.
with your first decision, right?
Yeah.
And that's deciding on a timeline for when you're going to make the decision. And you
Right.
you said it best. Quick decisions work the best. So,
Yeah.
giving yourself saying, I'm going to make this decision in 3 weeks. There's really no reason for that 3 weeks. You can
Hmm.
do it quicker.
Yeah.
But committing to a day, to a time, and maybe even committing to somebody else when you're going to make that decision.
Yeah, well, if you're in sales, and we've both heard this before, I need to talk to my wife, or I need to talk to my husband, right? And so that's fine. And many times it is not just a tactic for them to shut you up and get
Yeah.
out of there. Sometimes it's true. However, how long does that take? Does it take a week normally? No, it actually takes 5 or 10 minutes. Now, you may not have time to get it to it that day, but is it going to take a week for them to decide? Because when do they decide? Do they take the whole week to decide to buy this car?
Hmm.
Maybe. Or do they talk at the very end? Okay, we got to tell them tomorrow if we're going to get this car. When do
Yeah.
they talk?
The
5 minutes
last
before
day.
five
Right.
minutes the last day, 5 minutes before they have to call the salesperson about the car, right? So let's be honest with ourselves too, that we do that most of the time. So making a deadline for your decision, make it as short of time as possible,
Yeah.
right? And obviously, if it's a big decision, a life-changing decision, you want to have a little buffer time. That's fine. But these small decisions, just decide now. Don't even
Right.
set a deadline. Just do it now.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think that's great because, it's very easy just to continually procrastinate making big decisions to say, "Oh, okay, well, I'll think about it again." It's
Right.
funny. I remember when I used to sell gym memberships, and exactly that would happen. They'd be like, "Well, I got to think about it." And they'd
Yeah.
think about it and they'd think about it and they'd think about it, and they
Yeah.
would never quite get to that decision. The
Right.
risk, if they just did it, would have been like $30,
Right.
for that month of the membership.
Right.
But, instead they went months without a decision, didn't get in shape, didn't do anything usually, right? So I think understanding, just do it. Just make the decision or set a short deadline and commit to it, to make your decision.
Did you ever ask him this? Hey, Mark, um, you need a week to make the decision. Do you think you're going to be in better shape in a week?
I believe I used harsher language. I
I
used
mean, that's like, don't do that. Like
much
that is so
harsher
offensive.
language than that.
But that was a thing that rolled in my head uh,
Yeah.
when they
Y'all,
said that.
it was much harsher, but that's close.
You close?
Um, so the second step, and I I'm interested in this because it's kind of two very different things, but it's about the balance and blending of our intuition,
Yeah.
which is what our gut tells us to do,
Yep.
and data, right, which is
Yep.
the information we're collecting as we're trying to make a decision, because those two things don't always match up.
Yep.
And I think we've all been in situations where the data says one thing, but our gut says a different thing.
Yeah.
So I think this is really an interesting step in the process.
So I look at it as all the same in this sense that the intuition, the gut feeling that you're getting is data.
Yeah,
You just don't know how it's being like when you see something, you know how that works. Maybe not technically, but you see it, okay? But when you feel something, you're like, why do I feel that? You're not the, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, and so I think it's all part of that decision making, and I think you can develop that more. You can develop your intuition, like a fighter. How does a fighter know to move their head slightly? Even before the punch is starting to come out. They see something, they just know it. They just know how they move. They move the shoulder just enough. They know that jab is coming, so they move before it gets there. That so it's a skill, it's
yeah,
training, and you can train yourself with decisions in that way. I know my wife has feelings with like I don't know about that person, and she's 99.9% she's usually right. Like I won't pick up on something and she will, and
yeah,
and and so any big decisions or any decisions that are dealing with people like that, I always consult her because she's going to tell me, and I just go with it because I know I know eventually she's gonna it's gonna come true,
yeah.
so
so the data side of this always makes me think of my blueberries story, right?
Okay.
And the blueberries story is this. I forgot what I was listening to, but it was basically somebody said to me um, that regardless of what you want, you can Google it and it'll be true, right? So I
Okay.
remember Googling blueberries are healthy, and
Yep.
I got a whole list of results about how healthy blueberries are.
Hmm.
And then I Googled blueberries are deadly. And I got a
Okay.
whole list of results about the ill effects of blueberries and how
Oh,
terrible they are for people, right?
wow.
So I think one of the issues with the world we live in today is there is so much data out there,
Hmm.
right? That it can almost hinder
Right.
your decision making. So I think one of the good strategies you can do is use the data to leverage what your gut was telling you.
Hmm.
So what's that initial gut feeling you get?
Right.
And then let's do some research into that. Not let's not go, well, what should I do? Because if
Right.
you ask the internet what you should do, oh my, well, if you're asking the internet what you should do, you're probably on the
Right.
wrong decision track already.
Right.
But when your gut tells you you should go in this direction, Google why, what are the risks, what are the benefits of going in that direction,
Hmm.
just so you're informed, and then decide if that's where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes if you're truly thinking about something, making a decision, a bigger decision, and taking a couple days to kind of let it sink in. Oftentimes I will think about something overnight, sleep on it, and then the next morning I can make the decision. So with the decisions that are a little bit bigger, I often do that. A little bit bigger decisions I might take a week, but I'm actually really thinking about it the whole week. I'm not waiting to the end and then deciding. So that's okay, but having a system that you can analyze
Yeah,
things properly, using your gut, using information, using papers black and white. And I think, like you said, the internet is going to tell you whatever you want. It can give you both. So that's not really an accurate thing. Now, if you want data, hopefully that can be accurate.
yeah.
But as far as helping you with the decisions, probably not the best.
No, exactly. Good place to get backup data for
Right.
what you want to do, but not a great place to go and ask, should I do? And don't ask social media. Ugh.
No, no. But
The
but AI will make up the wrong things.
AI will definitely make up for
I,
things. So,
and and I had a real quick. I had an experience. I just bought a new vehicle, and so I started this process 6 months ago because I like to do my research. I like to think about it. Like to see what's out. I also want to have a good deal, so I wanted to see what where the sales are at with certain things. So if one model's not selling as much and I like it, I'll go for that to get a better deal. Right? Why pay for hype when it's the same car?
yep.
Um, so during my research, this was a few months ago, I asked about, with the reliability of this model and all of that and the sales, and it gave me data on 2025. And I said, okay, now give me data on this other one. And it was saying, well, the data is not out yet. I said, well, you just gave me data. I was typing this. You just gave me data on this 2025 model, this make and model of this vehicle. Why is that out and this one isn't? And then it said, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. So it basically fabricated
Hmm.
numbers to please me.
Oh, that's
That's
nice.
I was like, oh my God. So you have to really be careful when you're when you're doing the decision making because
Yeah.
it will make things up.
Your gut is more valuable than you
Yes.
know.
And that was a simple thing. That was just buying a vehicle. I mean,
Right. You
it's
don't have
not
to
that
get,
big a deal,
you
but
can just tell me it's not there. You have to make
yeah,
it up.
right. You didn't have to make stuff up.
So the last step in this, so once you've kind of gone with your gut and figured out what you want to do, the last step is really about getting over the fear of making the wrong choice, right?
Right.
Because that's really,
Yep.
I feel like this is really the crux of all of
Sure.
it. It's we're afraid we're going to make the wrong choice, and I love telling people there really isn't a wrong choice, right?
Yep.
There's rarely one right answer
Hmm.
to anything. And
Hmm.
if somebody said confidence is really just the stacking of successes,
Right.
so you feel like you know what you're doing and you have
Hmm.
competence,
Yep.
and if you look at your life going backwards and the decisions you've made, I'm willing to bet you're still okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've probably made some
Hmm.
not great decisions, and you're probably, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably doing all right.
Right.
So I think it's important sometimes to say, and we did a whole podcast on this,
Hmm.
if I'm not going to die from this decision and I'm
Right.
not going to go to prison from this decision, um, really everything else is just kind of
Yeah.
fodder for my
Yeah.
story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's certainly big decisions that you should think about and not emotionally decide on it.
Hmm.
Uh, like your spouse. I think that's something that you might want to think through,
Yeah,
figure out what you want to, instead of just the emotion of, oh, I love this person, I'm infatuated with this person. Are they good for you? Are they going to help you?
yeah,
Are you going to be able to grow together and be a great couple? That's a big decision that you shouldn't rush. Okay. I think also what your main business is, buying a house. You should do some research. Do you like
yeah,
the area? So it's not just the house itself, because how often have you heard, oh, I love this house. If I just could pick it up and move it over here, and it
yeah,
is compromise. When you buy a house, oftentimes we compromise with certain things. Can you live with that compromise? So those are all the decisions you gotta think through. Um, but the big thing, it's we're talking about smaller decisions, daily decisions. Where should I
yeah.
go to eat? What
Mhm.
should I do this? Or deciding, should I eat this or not? And usually the answer is no. If you're asking yourself, should I eat this or not? The answer is no. Because if it was good for you, you wouldn't even ask.
No one's ever said, should I eat this broccoli or not? Like, you should.
Right.
You should. You,
Hmm.
you might not want to. And there's probably
Right.
sometimes you shouldn't eat broccoli if you're
Right.
gassy. But for the most part, but I think
Yeah.
that's right. I think, even with complicated decisions, there's still rarely one right answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you said about compromise, absolutely. Like sometimes you need to say, hey, I want to get fit. My decision is I'm going to start running outside, and then you have a 200-degree day, and you go, okay, well, maybe today's not the day, right? But
Yeah.
maybe I'll run inside. Maybe I'll get
Yeah.
on the treadmill. Maybe I'll, go on on YouTube and find some indoor workout in the
Yeah.
air conditioning. So I think that's important, but I think it's also important to know that every decision is a learning opportunity.
Yes.
You're going to make wrong decisions, and you're going
Yep.
to be unhappy with the decisions you make. And instead of stewing in it and living in the unhappiness, just figure out what you can learn from it and move on.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I like asking, can I live with it? So the compromise part,
Yeah,
can I live with that?
yeah,
Am I going to be happy with that? So whatever you're compromising on, maybe in your head you had it like, I want it this way, this is how it has to be, and then you think about it, okay, what if it wasn't that way? Could I live with it? If the answer is no, okay, then it's that important to you, then you move on. If the answer is yes, I could live with it, okay, then you move on to the next compromise. Like I said, there's not going to be any perfect decision. Nothing's going to, very rarely is it going to be just 100% it goes your way. So you have to make sometimes small decisions leading up to the bigger decisions.
yeah. I think that's 100% right. I think if you're procrastinating a decision, it's because it's a hard decision, right?
Yeah.
And usually with every hard decision, there's good and bad on both sides, and that's the weight that we're putting on things.
Right.
I think developing that ability to learn, that ability to focus on the wins out of it, that
Hmm.
mindset
Hmm.
of decision making, will really help point you in the right
Yeah.
direction. So,
For sure.
all right, let's review our action steps going through
Okay.
this. So,
Sounds
helping
good.
you bust through decision paralysis, like just
Yes.
getting over it and getting going. Number one, your first decision, set a
Hmm.
deadline or just do
Right.
it. Like
Right.
if it's not an easy decision, but you can just take action on it now, do it and figure it out later. But if it's a larger decision,
Hmm.
set that deadline.
Yep. Number two is blend intuition with data. So use your gut, use and from experience, but also blend it with hard facts. So that way you're making the best decision.
Yeah. Number three, get over the fear of the wrong choice. The odds are you're going to be fine with whatever choice you go with. You'll be able to make the best of it, learn from it.
Hmm.
Do your due diligence in your decision making, weigh your options, but very rarely are you going to hit it perfect. So just get
Right.
over it. You're not going to be perfect. Do the best you can and learn from
Right.
the losses if you have them. And
Right.
that wraps up
Yep.
this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. If you know somebody who's struggling with making a decision, send this their way, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, for specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.